Hello, Assalamu alaikum, and welcome to all of you in today's groundbreaking session hosted by ACCA. I hope you are all as excited about the topic as I am, Tax Laws Amendment Ordinance 2020, which focuses on the construction industry and basically formalize the incentives announced by the Prime Minister. So let's start with today's session. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Rabbash Rahli Sadri. وَيَسِّرْ أَمْرِي وَأَحْلُلْ عُقْدَةً مِّن لِّسَانِي يَفْقَهُوا قَوْلِي. O Allah, open my heart and ease my task for me, and remove the impediments from my speech, so that they may understand what I say. The mandatory speaker's intro, for those who are not aware of me, my name is Omar Zahir Mir. I'm an FCCA. I'm a highly IT literate and experienced finance management economics professional, also holding a CFA charter, CABFP, CPFA, anti-money laundering, fraud risk management specializations, and various other professional certifications. On the experience front, I have 17 years fund of experience gained by working in top management positions both abroad as well as in Pakistan. At the moment, I'm working as a managing partner at MLCC, that's Millennium Law and Corporate Company. I'm a managing partner for taxation and corporate services there, and this happens to be the pioneer ACCA taxation and legal practicing firm in Pakistan. I'm also honored to be sitting on the boards of several corporate entities and various think tanks. With regards to trainings, I believe this is a way to give back to society, and I'm honored to have conducted mandatory promotional trainings of government officers at MPDD and worked with the likes of National Bank of Pakistan, HBL, MCB, PPCBL, Institute of Bankers Pakistan, in collaboration with the State Bank of Pakistan, Lahore Karachi Tax Bar, Lahore Karachi Chamber, Pakistan Tax Bar, UET, Bahia University, and our very own ACCA. I also regularly get published in various English language dailies and research journals. They are all listed on your website. I'm honored to have been a receiver of ACCA's Exceptional Public Value and National Advocacy Awards. Being a life member, I'm also the twice serving Crunch Chairman of Finance Economic Affairs Liaison Committee and previously 4 times serving Chairman Liaison Committee of Lahore Tax Bar Association. I'm also honored to be representing Pakistan on the Global Tax Forum, and I'm the chairman of ACCA's MNP and Taxation Subcommittee. I'm also associated with various other esteemed organizations as listed, but I think that's enough about me. I'm going to skip the next few slides, which list the key existing clients association, the academic and professional affiliations and major strengths. MLCC was profiled by ACCA, which is a big honor. So the link to the profile and MLCC's website are available should you be interested. Just a professional acknowledgement before we proceed. Several legislations issued by FPR and the proprietary research and commentary by Millennium Law and Corporate Company, MLCC, on today's subject have been utilized in the development of this session and the presentation you are about to see. Obviously, it's a 2-hour session, so due to limited time and extensive volume of the topic, we have strived to cover the maximum possible content within the available time. The content coverage had to be prioritized and managed in order to suit the requirements and constraints of today's session. We have worked really hard. Um, there was uh, there was a consideration how to go about this, because we could have just gone through the entire body of the legislation, or we could have just gone on a few points that are being discussed the most. But we thought that we should make it as much beneficial for our attendees as possible. So we have actually prepared this presentation for you, which covers almost all the core points. And we have also provided you with the copy of the Tax Laws Second Amendment or Tax Laws Amendment Ordinance 2020, as well as today's presentation, and also another legislation which is relevant, the Voluntary Declaration of Domestic Assets Act. We'll be sharing why that's relevant. So now that we have discussed this, let's begin with today's session. So, why the need for this legislation? Why the need to promulgate this ordinance? Why the need to provide so many incentives to the construction sector? Whether some of the incentives are what the popular public discourse is making them to be. Let's find out. As you are all aware, the world is facing an unprecedented global pandemic of COVID-19, commonly referred to as the coronavirus, the likes of which don't exist in any of our living memory. The last major such pandemic was the Spanish flu, way back before even the Second World War, around the 1918s. So this pandemic has actually created a worldwide crisis. And it's not just a health crisis, but it's translating due to the lockdown and other side effects into an economic crisis. So much so that some commentators are fearing at least an interim economic meltdown if the governments are not to take sufficient action. So due to this, various industries, businesses, offices, services have been shut down in Pakistan like the rest of the world, and the economic activities practically at a standstill. So this situation has adversely affected Pakistan's economy, and all segments of our society and population are suffering economic hardship. However, the segment that is perhaps suffering the most in these existing circumstances are the poor and the most vulnerable sections of the society. They include the daily wages in Pakistan, who are at the most risk of suffering and facing dangers to their livelihoods, so much so to the level that many of them even say that we are not sure whether we'll die of coronavirus, but we fear dying of hunger. So these things need to be considered. We are all aware of the impact it's making in other countries. The growth projections have gone into negative in many countries. In the US, the unemployment claims have reached close to um, about some people were saying the last figure I checked was 10 million, but it was about to go to, I think, perhaps much higher than that. I'll just check the latest figure as well. We are facing. So, in order to protect and revive the economy of Pakistan, it was therefore essential to give incentives to the economy. And the government decided that it was going to give incentives to the construction industry, but with certain conditions. So, during his address to the nation on 3rd of April earlier this year, earlier in this month, in fact, the Prime Minister of Pakistan announced a special incentive package focused on the construction sector with the aim to revive the economy during these troubling times. And these incentives were approved by the cabinet and presented to the President of Pakistan in line with the legal requirements. And the President has now promulgated this as the TaxLaws Amendment Ordinance 2020, and it was promulgated on 17th of April 2020. So, a very quick overview. What does this ordinance entail? It involves a conditional amnesty from Section 111 covering unexplained income and assets. It has introduced a new section of Section 100D in the Income Tax Ordinance 2001 for tax year 2020 and onwards. The builders and developers are given an option to opt for tax treatment under the Section 100D, which I've just referred to, and rules are introduced by way of the 11th schedule, which covered the tax rates, the rebates, rationalizations, etc. And other income profits and gains not subject to this section shall be subject to the tax as per the provisions of the existing Income Tax Ordinance 2001. So we decided that the best way to go about the ordinance was to first talk about the definitions of the various key terms referred to in this ordinance. So when we'll be going through the body of the ordinance, or we'll be going through the various incentives and conditions, you would actually know what that means. So let's start with this. First of all, the ordinance is basically focusing on three major categories: the builders and developers. They are covered within the construction industry, but there would be no industry without the buyers. So the third category that's covered somewhat is the purchaser as well. So let's find out the definitions. A builder, as per the definition of Tax Laws Amendment Ordinance 2020, would be a person who is registered, the first requirement, to be registered as a builder with the board. We'll discuss this, that this would be done by filling up certain forms on IRIS, which is the web portal of FPR. So a builder would be someone who would be registered as a builder with the board and is engaged in the construction and disposal of residential or commercial buildings. So these builders and developers or various partners thereof would be making capital investments. So what does capital investment mean? A capital investment in the context of this ordinance would mean investment as equity resources and would not include borrowed funds. So that's something important. Similarly, a developer would refer to a person who is registered as a developer with the board and engaged in the development of land in the form of plots of any kind, either for itself or otherwise. So these builders and developers would be working on projects. What do we mean by project in the context of this ordinance? And let me just take a quick breather here to share with you guys that this ordinance right now is not only the most recent piece of tax legislation, but the one most in demand and perhaps the one impacting the businesses the most. Certainly, no doubt about the construction industry as a whole. Construction sector has now been given the status of an industry that we'll be discussing about. So it is very important that you have a good understanding and a good command of this, no matter what you are doing. Even if you are not working in the construction industry directly or indirectly, you would be impacted. Even if your sector is not one of the ancillary sectors or connected sectors or within the supply chain, you, your owners, your clients, someone would be buying the property somewhere down the line. So it is a good idea professionally as well as personally to have a good understanding of this legislation. And the next I think whatever time is left, next quarter to 2 hours or whatever, would perhaps be one of the most important segments of your professional learning. So please do pay all the attention. Anyway, coming back to the definitions, the project would refer to a project of construction of a building with the object of disposal, that is being referred to the side of the builder. How about the developer? The definition also covers or a project for development of land into plots with the object of disposal or otherwise. These projects would be divided within existing projects and new projects. And these existing and new project definitions are defined in terms of some requirements. So let's find out. An existing project would mean a construction or development project which commenced before the date of the commencement of Tax Laws Amendment Ordinance and is still incomplete. And this project is still incomplete. Very logical, make absolute sense. An existing project would be something that was already happening and is not complete by the time the law is being made, right? But the second requirement now is that this project would need to complete on or before 30th of September 2022. So roughly you can say um, just over 2.5 years are being given for the completion from April 2020 to September 2022. Then a declaration is provided in the registration form under 11th schedule to the effect of the percentage that the project was completed on the last day of the accounting period covered within the tax year 2019. This is important because, as we'll be covering in the detailed coverage of the incentives, the percentage of the project that was covered, that was completed within tax year 2019 would not fall under the ambit of this ordinance. It would be taxed in a different manner. Anyway, just remember that the existing project has to be a project that started before this ordinance was promulgated and would need to be completed on or before 30th September 2022, and would need to be segregated in terms of the completion before the promulgation or on the promulgation of this ordinance, and after this till the due date of 30th September 2022. So a new project, by contrast, would mean a construction or development project which commenced during the period, which period? Starting from the date of the commencement of Tax Laws Amendment Ordinance 2020, which is 17th of April 2020, till 31st of December 2020. So now we have this window during which the new projects can start. And by start, it means they have to be registered with FBR after they get the approval from the relevant authority. We'll be covering that too. And these new projects would also have the same completion deadline of just over 2.5 years at the most. They would need to complete on or before 30th September 2022 to avail all the benefits under this ordinance. So now that we have spoken about builders and developers and the new projects and existing projects, the natural culmination would be to talk about the buyers. A first-time purchaser would be a person who purchases a building or a unit, as the case may be. So it's not necessarily a building, it can be a unit, mean a plot too, as we are covering developers within the ambit too, directly from the builder, and does not include a subsequent or substituted buyer. So in addition to a whole building, it can be a unit of the building too. So what can be a unit of a building? Think. Our friends from Karachi should be pretty familiar. The phenomena is much more common there. We are referring to the flats. Anyway, we'll be discussing these things in more detail. Just remember, a first-time purchaser is someone who purchases directly from a registered builder, and it does not include a subsequent or substituted buyer. Registered with the board would mean simply someone, a builder or developer, who registered after submission of forms on a project by project basis using the online FBR web portal of IRIS. An area, we all know what area means, but the legislations never leave anything to imagination. It strives to define as much things as possible so that the law can be implemented, and as minimum as possible is left to imagination so the disputes can be minimum. Anyway, area means, in case of a builder, in case of a commercial or residential building, excluding a house, the saleable area of the building. Any area that is not saleable would not cover or fall within the definition of the area. And in case of a house, the covered area of the house. On the other hand, in case of a developer, area would refer to the total area of the project. Building means a residential or commercial building or unit thereof, and commercial building includes any building or part thereof which is used for commercial purposes in accordance with the relevant laws. The commencement of a project, meaning the start of the project, would mean, in case of a construction project, when the layout plan is approved by the concerned authority. And in case of a development project, when the development plan is approved by the concerned authority. Now, why this definition is important? Because you can see the definition of new project, existing project, refers to the timeline of commencement of the project. So hence, it's very important to define commencement. And in simple word, commencement would be when the layout or development plan were approved or will be approved by the concerned authority. Now, talking about the practical considerations, one of the uh, issue that we often face is the backlog and the time taken by relevant authorities for approval. And luckily, the effort has been made to address this within the ordinance to try to facilitate the potential builders and developers. So, provided that where the builder or developer has taken all the necessary action and done all the things that are required and necessary to procure any approvals, but any such approval is delayed beyond a period of 30 days from the date of the relevant application, and the cutoff date of 31st day of December 2020 is not adhered to by the builder or developer. So a scenario where the builder and developer filed their application more than 30 days from 31st of December, and they did everything right and they completed all the processes, but the relevant authority has not issued the approval yet. The board may provisionally accept the commencement of such a project on case by case basis. So the people who deal with these things in practical basis would appreciate how big a practical relief this is. It could have been even better, but something is better than nothing. So this brings us to the completion of the project. The completion of the project would mean, in the case of a builder, the date on which the gray structure is complete, provided that such gray structure shall only be considered as completed when the roof of the top floor has been laid as per the approved plan. So what exactly is a gray structure? Anybody with expertise or any background from the construction industry, please type in your question answer box, in your feedback box, in your chat box, so that we can see what you think it is before I tell you what it is. And I'm going to give you a few seconds, maybe even a minute to do that. So please let your feedback come so we can see whether we have someone or some attendees from the construction background as well. By the way, I've got a very, very good question from Taha Askari, which I'll be answering, Taha, in the first Q&A break just shortly. Zishan Majid has answered brick structure. Okay. Muhammad Mazhar Hassan. Okay. So a lot of interest in the economic scenario, the implications, etc., etc. Okay. Okay. So basically, the crux of the feedback is the brick structure. Um, I'm gonna give a few more seconds to see if we get any different feedback. Otherwise, I'll just continue and elaborate. Hamidur Rahman Saab says, gray structure is the dhancha, the unfinished structure. Okay, now that's very, very interesting. Nizam, can we unmute Hamid Sahab? I would like to discuss this. And while you are unmuting Hamid, I'll just like to make a quick announcement that today's session is the result not only of the members' feedback, the work of the taxation committee, which I'm honored to be chairing, and I would also like to thank our partners in other esteemed institutions. Some of the key figures from these institutions is attending today's session as well. So Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry, particularly my very good friend, Mr. Kashif Anwar from there, who proposed that this session should be held in a very timely fashion. Similarly, Lahore Tax Bar Association, another good friend and official of the bar, the VP, Mr. Ashik, who has also joined today's session, and many other friends from various bodies who suggested to us that ACCA, being one of the leading accounting bodies in Pakistan and the largest global accounting body, should hold this very important and groundbreaking session, helped us by motivating us and by providing us their feedback to organize and go for today's session. And let me just share this with you, and this will should make you really proud, that as per my knowledge, ACCA is the first major accounting body to be holding a session. In fact, the first major organization to be holding a session on the tax laws amendment ordinance 2020 in Pakistan. So that's a big leap forward for you. So have we unmuted Nizam?
Yes, we have. Hamid, you may ask your question and speak.
Assalamu alaikum, sir. This is Hamid from Peshawar, an ACCA member working as the manager accounting and finance at Toyota Khyber Motors. एक प्रोजेक्ट हमारा करंटली सर कंस्ट्रक्शन इंडस्ट्री में चल रहा है, एक्सेस वॉल एंड अपार्टमेंट्स इस्लामाबाद में।
One
जी
second.
प्लीज
Let me answer your salam and welcome you. So wa alaikum assalam, and you are welcome. We will be discussing your feedback, but before that, how is the session going so far? I hope you are enjoying it. And how do you feel being a member of ACCA that we are the first body to be holding this session in Pakistan?
Alhamdulillah, sir. I'm feeling pretty proud that I'm an ACCA member. और इससे बढ़कर कोई बात मेरे लिए नहीं है कि मतलब ACCA is one of the major accounting bodies जो कि पाकिस्तान में इस तरह की सेशन जो है तो वो कंडक्ट करा रही है। और ऑब्वियसली जिस तरह आपने मेंशन किया थोड़ी देर पहले कि मतलब ये सेशन जो है मतलब वन ऑफ दी मतलब जो जिसका डिमांड बहुत ज्यादा है आजकल, क्योंकि मतलब सारी इकोनॉमिक क्राइसिस है पाकिस्तान में, तो मतलब हर इंडस्ट्री जो है तो इससे इफेक्टेड है। तो इस रिलीफ को मतलब समझने के लिए मेरे ख्याल से मतलब हर बंदा जो है तो उस पर बैठा हुआ है कि यार इसको मैं समझूं और अपने अपने ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस को अगर मतलब इसका फायदा है तो उसको प्रॉपर्ली तरीके से उसके लिए अप्लाई करें और मतलब जो फायदा है वो गेन कर लें। तो यस, आई एम फीलिंग वेरी प्राउड।
That's great, and we are also proud of you. So just very quickly, coming back to what we were discussing, Hamid Sab, you mentioned that the gray structure is the dhancha, the unfinished structure. Would you like to elaborate?
Yes, sir, sure. मेरा जो मतलब है मतलब ग्रे स्ट्रक्चर फॉर एग्जांपल बिल्कुल फ्लोर से आप एक ब्रिक्स का स्ट्रक्चर जो है तो वो शुरू करते हैं, ठीक है, आप बिल्कुल टॉप फ्लोर तक जाते हैं, ठीक है, जो अनफिनिश्ड एक आपको एक फिनिश्ड काइंड ऑफ फिनिश्ड वुड जो कि बिल्कुल अनफिनिश्ड हो, ठीक है, मतलब उसमें आपने अभी रंग वंग वगैरह नहीं किए, मैं बिल्कुल सिंपल टर्मिनोलॉजीज यूज करूंगा ताकि सारों की जो है तो समझ में आ जाए, और उसमें मतलब फिटिंग्स वगैरह नहीं हुए, काइंड ऑफ फिनिशिंग उसमें नहीं हुए हो, विदाउट फिनिशिंग मतलब वो जो फिनिशिंग वाला टच है वो उसमें नहीं हो, बाकी सारी चीजें जो है तो उसमें कंप्लीटेड हो, तो दिस इज व्हाट वी कॉल्ड ए ग्रे स्ट्रक्चर सर।
Very well done, Hamid. Thank you very much. You can mute yourself again now.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
So Hamid Saab must have some background in the construction industry because he explained it very well. What he said is pretty much the definition, but let's formally discuss it. So a gray structure in simple word is what would look or appear gray when completed. So if we elaborate that more, it means the completion of the foundation, walls, roof with the bricks, the cement plaster on the wall, underground water tank, roof water tank, septic tank. However, it would not include the boundary wall, none of the services like electric, sewage, woodwork, painting, flooring, marble, aluminium, steel work, or face work. So it's basically what Hamid also referred to, the brick structure, the plaster, the water tanks, etc., and obviously the foundation walls and roof developed on them. So a builder would only need to complete this structure, and the internal work, the wiring, electricity, sewage, woodwork, um, um, uh, tiling, painting, etc., they are not required to be completed by way of the definition of the completion of the project. So if a builder would just complete the gray structure by the due date, it would be assumed that they have completed the project in terms of the requirement of this ordinance. On the other hand, for the developer, the date the completion of project would be the date on which at least 50% of the total plots have been booked in the name of the buyers, and of those bookings at least 40% of the sales proceed have been received. The landscaping of those plots needs to be completed, and at least 50% of the roads would need to be laid up to the subgrade level as certified by the approving authority or NESPAC. So there are four conditions for a developer for the project to be termed as completed. Number one, the landscaping should be complete. Number two, at least 50% of the road should be laid up to subgrade level and certified by the relevant approving authority. Number three, at least 50% of the plots should be booked in the name of the buyers, and at least 40% of the sales proceed from them being received off. Why? Because these entail some checks. Which checks? We'll discuss them in a bit, but I think now is the time to take some of your very interesting questions. Are you ready, Nizam, for the Q&A? While we'll get Nizam, let me just very quickly share with you that the ordinance became available. The actual draft of the ordinance I'm going to show you, and there's something very interesting written on top of the ordinance, which shares with us that this is the copy that has been given to the FPR as approved by the president, and the copy that would be published in the Gazette, the official Gazette, is yet to be released. And this copy was released by FPR only yesterday. Yesterday on FPR's website, and ACCA is delivering this session today. So how amazing is that? Anyway, I think we have Nizam with us now.
Yes, sure.
So let's start with the questions, Nizam. My most favorite part of every session.
Thank you. So I think these are comments on the gray structure we have right now. Do you want me to read them out?
No, Nizam, if you scroll up to Taha screen, that's right after where you shared the link of the Google Drive for handouts. So the first question is there, and it's asked by Mr. Taha Askari.
Okay, I don't seem to find Mr. Taha's question. I'm sorry.
Just I'll go for this question myself. You just keep on scrolling up till you locate there. So Taha asked, what benefits or loss does the government foresee that it has enforced the requirement of the completion date of 30th September 2022? A very, very good question, Taha, and just the kind of question I expect from our attendees and our members. In fact, I would like to speak with Taha. Is it possible to unmute him, Nizam?
It is possible, sir.
Please do.
So it's Taha Askari. Am I correct, sir?
Yes, you are.
Okay, Taha, you need to unmute yourself and you will be able to converse. So yes, go ahead.
Hello, sir.
Assalamu alaikum, Taha.
Wa alaikum salam, sir. How are you?
Okay, we need to hang on so one can go first. Let me do it. Assalamu alaikum and welcome, Taha. How are you and how are you enjoying the session today?
Wa alaikum salam, sir. I'm very well, and this session is very informative, and thank you for conducting it, sir.
The pleasure is all mine. Taha, would you like to quickly introduce yourself before we discuss about your question?
Absolutely, sir. So I'm an ACCA member. I've been working since over 8 years at 4 different banks, which includes Habib Bank, ICBC, Bank Alfala, and Telenor Microfinance. However, since the last 1 year, I've been working towards a startup, which I've been working, and we've pitched it to a corporate. It's a fintech startup. So basically, this is what I've been doing.
That's really amazing, and that's really good to know. So Taha, you have asked a very, very interesting question. How did you think of it? Are you in the construction industry?
No, sir, but we are very interested in this low housing project scheme projects actually, and we actually pitched. I don't know if I should say this because I have an NDA signed with the corporate, but we wanted to explore this avenue of 3D printing with one of the corporates building this low cost housing. I think if people are aware, if they've been following news, just recently Dubai, there was a municipality company that was built by a 3D printing company.
Yep.
So we have an interest over there, and we've been looking at options. And this certain corporate is also interested in hearing us out. So this is why I came up with this question.
That is really, really amazing, Taha, and it would be great for Pakistan. This is a really good question you have asked, and let me tell you why did the government enforce this? The thing is this, the government is focusing on two things. Number one, it wants the construction industry to start immediately and for the rest of this year, which is expected to be hit the most by this ongoing economic crisis, and not just in Pakistan, throughout the world. Head of ACCA Pakistan, Sajid, did a session a few days ago, and he shared some slides of projections by various different bodies across the globe, and most projections expect that if coronavirus is controlled, then from next year the economies can start reverting back to the normal, the new normal at least. So this year is the one that is critical. So the first thing that the government was looking for was to motivate the construction industry to go into action immediately, and for that they have given the commencement clauses to start before 31st December 2020. Now, even if someone starts the project, they can really stall that. I mean, they got it approved, and the definition, the requirement of commencement as per the ordinance would be met, but the actual work would not be going on. So the actual aim of the government, of the money flowing into the sector, of the people getting work, of the different ancillary industries going into motion, the economic activity being generated wouldn't be happening. I hope you are with me. So just think about the
Yes,
commencement requirement. The commencement was only approval of the map or the plan. So that can be done with very little investment, especially if you are already holding the property. And even if you buy the property, that would not create the economic activity that is being envisaged. So this
absolutely.
requirement would actually push the builders and developers to go into action, to actually go in the construction activity, because they would need to be a bit efficient, if not more, if they are to complete the project within 2.5 years. So that is the reason for the government to enforce this requirement. I hope that answers the question.
It does, sir. Absolutely. Thank you so much, sir.
You are most welcome. You can mute yourself again. Let's continue with the other questions now. And Nizam, do you see, it's amazing. We have spoken to our two members, and mashallah, one is working in a very, very renowned company, and the other is also working in the fintech sector with one of the most upcoming technologies. So it's amazing how our members are doing all these wonderful stuff. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. All efforts of our teams and uh, around the globe, they work very hard. I, being an intern, I see them work for our members, students. So tremendous.
And our MNP and taxation committee also works very hard in
Yeah,
consultation and
hats off to them as
collaboration
well.
with
I've
our.
been on a recent trip and it was very fruitful.
That's great. Okay, let's continue with the questions now, Nizam. Did you locate the other questions? The next one is by
So
Muhammad Mazhar Ehsan.
yeah. So this is the same question I asked you some time earlier. General question: are the property prices going to rise after construction industry announcement?
So I hope this is not a planted question by you.
Oh, no, not at all.
On a light, that was on a lighter note. I know you well enough. Okay, Mazhar, that is a good question, and a question on many minds, many of the clients, many of the friends. In fact, Nizam here also asked me this question. In fact, I was discussing this with our partner and the chair of the Lahore Tax Bar ACCA License Committee, Ali Zahir Mir too, that what would be the impact on the property prices, because there are various factors you have to consider here. Number one is the economic slump, the downturn. the economic downturn. People are going towards safety first approach. We have seen what happened with the markets, the oil markets, the physical delivery market contracts of Western Texas crashed yesterday, but that can be attributed to the current scenario plus the physical demand. We also know that in a scenario like this, in an unprecedented pandemic, most of the people tend to go for a safety first approach. However, with these incentives, many builders and developers and financial institutions are looking to work in the construction industry. So with all that work happening, what can happen? And the impact on supply and demand. So there are various factors. Uh, as we'll see in this ordinance, a sort of amnesty has been given. This amnesty covers the major practical hurdle which actually kept the investors away when the tax reforms regarding construction sector were introduced a few years back. So basically, Section 111 covers unexplained income and assets, and it basically allows FPR to ask anyone, where does your income and asset come from, because it doesn't conform with your declared sources or with your declared tax returns. So a lot of investors in Pakistan were not declaring a lot in their tax returns, unfortunately, because of culture of tax avoidance. And even people coming from abroad were not normally making appropriate declarations as per the law. So when the tax reforms happened, although the law was already there, but the FPR started enforcing that for the construction sector. So what happened was that a lot of investors got scared that what will we answer, where did the money come from, we'll have to give the sources, we'll have to give the documentation. And people, especially people who did not either have the adequate record or who were involved in activities like tax avoidance, felt very uncomfortable. They took their monies out and went to other safe havens like the Gulf. um, we know for a fact that a lot of money that went out of Pakistan's construction industry went into Dubai, in UAE, and other states of the Emirate as well. So the major consideration of these investors was not tax, it was Section 111. So what this ordinance does is provide them an amnesty. So many of the people, many of our clients that I've spoken to in the construction industry too, are really hopeful that they'll be able to get at least a good number of those investors who stopped investing in Pakistan back now that this amnesty has been introduced. However, I believe there are a few points that needs refinement and clarification in this ordinance, and it would really depend on how many investors can be motivated and they come back in Pakistan before we can really assess and give a learned assessment of the price impact of the property sector. But one good thing would be that the depression on the prices of property might neutralize. To what extent and how much it goes into green, or whether it doesn't at all, remains to be seen. As to the impact, the impact more so on the investors coming back in Pakistan, because the demand is still there, the genuine demand is there. What really drive the property sector in Pakistan, like in most of the developing countries, were investors. So I hope that answers your question in detail. I actually answered this question in detail because this is a very important question, and it's important that we understand the economic repercussions. So let's continue, Nizam.
Thank you so much for answering that question, sir. So we have Nabil Ibrahim asking, a declaration is provided in the registration form under 11th schedule to the effect of percentage of the project completed up to the last date of the accounting period pertaining to the tax year 2019. So he wants an explanation on this point.
Sure. Nabil, I have explained this point before. First of all, welcome in the session, but let me just explain it again for you. Basically, we have discussed that the existing projects that were in existence before the commencement of this ordinance and that were not complete would be allowed to fall within the ambit of this ordinance. However, the work that was already completed would be treated for tax purposes under the tax laws in existence before the promulgation of this ordinance. So for that, the existing project would need to be segregated as to the proportion that was completed before the promulgation of the ordinance. So the last completed tax year was tax year 2019. So by the end of the accounting period that falls in tax year 2019 of that business, which is or individual that was running the project, would need to be segregated so that the percentage that was completed till that point in time can be treated as per the laws in force for tax year 2019. I hope that answers the question. Next one.
Saqib Latif, one of the most important definitions amended was that of industrial undertaking. Can you elaborate on this?
Indeed, Saqib, and that's a fantastic question. That's what we are about to cover in the next section. I think that we should now go back to our session because the question might start relating to the slides that we are to cover. So let's go back to our presentation and we'll come back for the next Q&A in a bit. So let's continue with the definitions we were covering. So low cost housing would mean a housing scheme that would be developed or approved by NAFTA, which means the Naya Pakistan Housing and Development Authority, or under the SARS program. NESPAC would refer to National Engineering Services Pakistan. NESPAC is being referred in terms of certifications and approvals. Residential building would mean a building which is not a commercial building but does not include building used for industrial purposes either. Saleable area in case of buildings would mean saleable area as determined by the approving authority or map approving authority, or the NESPAC under the relevant laws. Unit means a self-contained or independent building or a part thereof, including houses, apartments, shops, offices, flats, etc. And we have covered all the basic definitions and we are ready for the main core incentives and their conditions. Are you ready, guys? Yes, you are. So let's continue. The first major incentive is that the definition of the industrial undertaking has been amended by introducing subclause AA under clause 29C in section 2 of the income tax ordinance. What does it say? Let's quickly read and then I'll explain it to you. This new subclause that has been inserted reads as, from the first day of May 2020, next month, a person directly involved in the construction of buildings, roads, bridges, and other such structures, or the development of land. So both builders and developers are covered within the definition. To the extent and for the purpose of import of plant and machinery to be utilized in such activity, subject to such conditions as may be notified by the board. So what happens here is that the definition of industrial undertaking is being amended to include the construction of building, road, bridges, and other such structures or the development of the land. And it will basically facilitate the import of plant and machinery to be utilized in all such activities, subject to any condition that the board may notify to keep some controls and checks. So basically, the biggest incentive for industrial undertakings is when they import different plant and machinery, they get serious tax breaks and rebates and tax credits, etc. So now that same treatment would be extended to the construction industry as well by view of this change. And hence, it is a big incentive for the construction industry. One of the prime issue with the construction industry, as the people involved would know, that many of our plant and machinery is old. So just like one of our member was sharing, they are planning to indulge in the 3D setup. So any plant and machinery that they'll now be importing for that 3D setup, by virtue of this definition, would fall in the construction industry being an industrial undertaking, and entail the serious tax incentives that are available to other industrial undertaking. So this is a big incentive for the construction industry. Then fixed rates of income tax have been introduced as a final discharge of the tax liability, and you have the table in front of you. This is exactly as the table in the ordinance, but MLCC has prepared in Excel, so it becomes more visible and easier to use for you. You have this presentation, so do use it, but be courteous enough to refer to MLCC as well. Anyway, you have four columns. The first column refers to the area. The next two column refers to the major cities in Pakistan. So column 2 is Karachi, Lahore, and Islamabad, and column 3 is Hyderabad, Sakkar, Multan, Faisalabad, Rawalpindi, Gujranwala, Sahiwal, Peshawar, Mardan, Abbottabad, and Quetta. And the column 4 is urban areas not specified in column 2 and 3. So the tax rates in respect of these areas have been divided into four segments. The first segment is the tax on builders for commercial buildings, and the area, the project for tax on builders for commercial buildings is irrespective of the size. It can be any size. There would be a fixed tax in Karachi, Lahore, Islamabad for commercial buildings, and in terms of any builders undertaking commercial projects, it would be 250 rupees per square foot. In the cities falling under column 3, it would be lesser, rupees 230 per square foot. And in any other urban areas other than column 2 and 3, it would be just to rupees 210 per square foot. Whereas the tax for builders for any residential building that they build up to 3,000 square feet in Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, it would be only rupees 80 per square foot. And for 3,000 square feet and above, it would be rupees 125 per square foot. Whereas for the cities in the column 3, up to 3,000 feet uh, size of residential building, it would be only 65 rupees per square foot. Whereas for 3,000 feet and above, that would be about 110 rupees per square feet. And for any urban areas other than column 2 and 3, for residential building projects, it would be just rupees 50 per square feet up to 3,000 square feet, and rupees 100 per square foot above that limit. Now let's talk about the developers. For the entire project of a developer that happens in Karachi, Lahore, or Islamabad, without any restriction of the size, the fixed rate of income tax would be 150 per square feet. Square yard, sorry. So now we are talking about square yard instead of square feet. For the cities appearing, the urban centers appearing in column 3, the tax on developers for entire project in these urban centers would only be 130 per square yard. And as mentioned in column 4, for any other urban areas, the tax for developers would only be 100 rupees per square yard. For development of an industrial area, so now that's being separated for the developers. For development of an industrial area of any size in Lahore, Karachi, Islamabad, the fixed rate of income tax would be only rupees 20 per square yard. And it would be the same for the urban centers appearing in column 3. And it would be even half at just rupees 10 per square yard for any urban center other than in column 2 and 3. However, a few finer points to note. In case of mixed use buildings having both commercial and industrial area, respective rates mentioned above shall apply to the respective development, to the respective building of the commercial use and the industrial use. In case of development of plots and constructing building on the same plots as a single one project, both rates shall apply. Provided that in the case of low cost housing and all projects developed by NAFTA, the higher of the rates shall apply. So I hope this is a major incentive and is taken in that positive spirit. And it was actually a big demand of Abad and many other builders and developers, many big names, that a fixed tax liability be fixed so that they can be saved from audit, the amnesty be declared. So many of their demands have been met. So hopefully we'll be seeing a lot of construction activity in the days to come, as well as the development activity. Next major relief after the fixed rates incentive and declaration of construction sector as an industrial undertaking, particularly in lieu of the import of the plant and machinery required for the works thereof, for the construction works, be it building or development. Another major incentive is the exemption from CVT by way of a change in the Finance Act 1989, as well as the exemption from turnover tax under section 113(11)(c). So it basically falls very beautifully with the introduction of fixed tax rates, that now these fixed tax rates have been introduced and they have done away with the turnover tax under section 113(11)(c). So first of all, CVT changes have been made in the Finance Act 1989, and CVT has been exempted. But we do know that the provinces now have the power, especially post 18 amendments, autonomous rights. The provinces now have the power and are expected to legislate for the same in the provinces. But by making a change in the Finance Act 1989, the CVT is being exempted for all kind of property transactions within the territorial jurisdiction of the Islamabad Capital Territory. Section 113 and 113C of Income Tax Ordinance 2001 shall not apply on the turnover, income, profits, and gains of a builder or developer from a project. And obviously, when we are talking about builders and developers, we are talking about the builders and developers who register themselves with the FBR. Otherwise, they would not fall within the definition of the builder and developer. It's very important to not lose sight of this, that we are talking about these terms, builders and developers, in the context of this ordinance. So those requirements need to be met. Anyway, exemption from capital gain tax. A lot of discussion has been about this, that oh, capital gain tax has been exempted, or whether it's been abolished. So what exactly is happening? Let's see. So there will be exemption from capital gain tax in case of the sale of a constructed residential property, provided three conditions are met. Number one, that at the time of sale, the residential property was being used for the purpose of personal accommodation by the resident individual, his spouse, or dependents, and for which, this is important, any of the utility bill, any, is issued in the name of such individual. So it can be an electricity bill, it can be the sui gas bill. So any utility bill should be in their name, and the property should have been used for the personal accommodation. The land area of the property should not exceed 500 square yard in case of a house. So that's roughly, I think, about 16 and a half marlas, if I talk in the typical language that we measure many construction projects. But people are well versed with the square yard and square feet too. Or 4,000 square feet, that's, I think, 16 and just about under 16 and a half marlas, or close to 16 marlas, somewhere in between. That's the quick calculation on top of my head. Anyway, the land area of the property should not exceed 500 square yard in case of a house, and 4,000 square feet in case of a flat. And exemption under this clause has not previously been availed by the individual, his spouse, or dependent. So if these three conditions are met and you are selling a constructed residential property, then congratulations, you will be exempted from the capital gain tax. Another major incentive. There are some other miscellaneous incentives that the builders and developers will be able to enjoy. So firstly, there would be no withholding tax on the services such as plumbing, electrification, shuttering, and other similar services other than those provided by the companies. So the builders and developers would not need to make the deductions under section 153. So similarly, there would be no withholding taxes on the purchase of material except for cement and steel. So changes have been made in sections 150 and section 153 of the Income Tax Ordinance 2001 to this effect by way of the Tax Laws Amendment Ordinance 2001. Tax-free dividends paid by such companies. Which companies? The single object companies that would be registered with FPR, and these companies would be builders or developers opting for taxation under this scheme, and these dividends would be paid without withholding tax deductions on such dividend payment. So again, it would be a big incentive to the shareholders, the investors of such companies. They'll be getting their dividends from the company tax free. And the businesses, the builders and developers that will now be involved in the construction, register the project with the FPR properly through IRIS, would be able to take credit or white the income up to 10 times the amount they'll pay as tax. So if a builder and developer end up paying 10 crore as tax, they'll be able to whiten 100 crore of their money as white income. The implication in terms of tax planning, in terms of future, in terms of section 111 are amazing. Reduced rate of advance tax on auction of immovable property will be enjoyed by the builder and developer of just 5%. Previously, the rate of advance tax on auction of immovable property was 10%. And the tax on projects registered under the low cost housing scheme, be it by Naya Pakistan housing scheme or other as approved, would be further reduced by 90%. So if the tax liability was to be, let's say, 1 crore of a big project, and that project is actually a low cost housing project, so that would be reduced by 90%. So 1 crore would become 10 lakh only. Can you see all the benefits? In addition to other benefits, the tax liability would be further reduced by 90%. So I say these are some pretty amazing benefits. Now the next one of the major one, and perhaps the one that is going to be impacting the property prices the most, is the amnesty. It's not referred to as amnesty, but it's what the tax professionals, the property, the construction industry, and the ordinary masses are calling it. So we have included the word amnesty. Formally, it's being referred to as exemption from section 111 of Income Tax Ordinance 2001, which deal with the unexplained income or assets. Before we talk about this amnesty, I think now would be a quick time to take some questions. What do you think, Nizam? Ready for that?
Sure, sir.
Let's do it then. Let's continue from where we left.
Okay. So, question from Munib Afan. How would the purpose accelerate the Pakistan's economy? Understanding that the purpose of recreating the daily wages linked to the construction, would that really be achieved assuming gatherings are risky?
Okay, that's a very interesting question. Okay, Munib, you have basically asked two things. One is the economic consideration and the other is the health consideration. So you have asked how the proposed benefits would accelerate Pakistan's economy. I believe I've discussed them in sufficient detail. The aim is to get builders and developers and buyers, all of them motivated to start working, investing in the construction industry, for builders and developers to start doing the construction work, the development and building work, and thereby provide jobs to daily wages as well as to ancillary industries. How would that impact in terms of gatherings? The government, the local administrations the provincial governments are releasing SOPs, standard operating processes, how the work would be done, how many people can be in an environment, how much distance would be kept between them, whether they would need to be wearing the mask, this hand sanitization that would need to be there. For some bigger projects, the walk-in gates, the walk-through sanitization things that are now the new in-demand thing for many businesses would need to be introduced. Regular temperature would need to be taken. So those SOPs would need to be implemented. One thing that would need to be taken care of, and we do hope that it would be the actual implementation of SOPs. So the administration would need to be really careful and ensure that these SOPs are in place away from some minor expense for the sake of the continuity of their own business as well as for the health of the masses. And hopefully, if the activity does start taking place to the extent envisioned, it would resuscitate the economy. More than 50 to 70 industries, as per various studies, are said to be linked with the construction industry. So if the construction industry start working, all of those industries would start working, the daily wages would start getting employment, etc. So the economic wheel would start going forward, and thereby the ancillary banking and finance industry would also start getting businesses. And these are some of the prime industries that drive the engine of Pakistan's economic growth. The agricultural industry has already been given various exemption and has started the work. So all these action taken together, I think the government is trying to do whatever is possible within the context to revive the economy. It can be argued that certain other industries could have also been given similar incentives, but the sky's the limit in terms of the wishes and the dreams. And certainly those arguments would have their own merits. But let's say something is better than nothing, and the ordinance is very well received, let me tell you, from the construction industry. There are a few clarifications that are still being sought and they are being awaited to be issued. But overall, the sentiment and reception has been very, very positive, and many builders and developers are really looking forward to go into action now. Let's hope this translates into action too. I hope that answers the question. Next one.
So we have Sadruddin Jumani asking, keeping in view the reputation of Sindh Building Control Authority, do you think a builder will be able to get his drawings approved in time? And if not, then the date of September 2022 is a bit unrealistic.
Can you unmute Sadruddin Saab, please?
Sure.
Thank you.
So Sadruddin, you are being unmuted. Please converse.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam, Sadruddin Saab. How are you today?
I'm doing mashallah very good. How about you?
I'm very well, sir. Thank you. Are you enjoying the session today?
Excellent, sir. Excellent. You are great,
Thank
sir.
you. Sir, you are very kind. I'm humbled. Would you like to briefly introduce yourself before we discuss your question?
Yes, my name is Sadruddin Jumani. I work for a oil and gas company in Pakistan, in Karachi. And just, being a local Karachiite, I know how things work and nothing, the reputation of different officials working in the Sindh Building Control Authority. So I was thinking, it's really good that the federal government has issued this ordinance, but when it comes to the provincial department getting approval, and we are all aware, what kind of practices are followed there. So it will be an issue for a builder to get his master plan and all other drawings approved in a civilized manner. and
Sajuddin
ethical.
Saab, it's a very good question that you have asked. And in fact, from your question, it appeared to me that you are either builder or developer or involved with the construction.
Yes, yes, I think I am. I work in a company, but at the same time, I'm a sleeping partner in a joint venture, informal joint venture with friends who build bungalows and then we sell it.
Mashallah. So see, I could guess your profession from your question rightly.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
You are welcome. Saduddin Sab, I have briefly discussed this, but I'll elaborate this for you because it's a very good question. Yes, these are practical issues. We know they are capacity issues. There are also other unfortunate and unethical dealings in at least some of the officers in various bodies, as you have mentioned. That is the reason that the time, two things have been done. Firstly, the time is given till December uh, that you have to register yourself, and the project completion date is given for September 22. So your question about the approval, the relevant time for that question is not 30th September 2022. It is 31st December 2020. That is the date by which the plan, the maps have to be approved. Now,
Oh, okay.
coming on to your question, firstly, why did the government do that? The reason being, this is the time when the government want the builders and developers to spur into action, because this is the time, even ethically and morally, we shouldn't sit on the money, we should put that into work. Plus, this is the time when they want the jobs to be created, the economic activity to happen. Make sense? Now,
Yes.
come now to the actual core of your question. They have tried to build couple of things within the legislation to address this. Number one, they have given the time till end of December. That is almost 8 months plus to get the approval. So how long can the authority delay? 1 month, 2 months, 3 months? But we know when some unscrupulous things happen, it can be much more. So if such a scenario happen, they have also added the provision that if you did all the things, you filed everything as was required, you have followed all the legal requirement, and you filed that at, at the maximum by 1st of December, so 30 days before the cutoff time, and the authority did not approve it within 30 days, then the FBR would still allow you a provisional registration. Okay, so they have tried to cover that thing within the ambit. However, we are aware that post 18 amendments, the provinces have gotten a lot of autonomy and many rights, and the federation can't really interfere or force them to make certain legislation. So it would be up to the provinces, and we do hope that the provinces will also legislate and introduce controls to improve their relevant authorities, because then the businesses will be facilitated more. As we know, the better the business ecosystem, the better the results would be. I hope that answers your question, Satruddin Saab.
Absolutely, sir. You're very thorough. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Can you mute Nizam and move on to the next question, please? So while we are getting Nizam back, I'll be continuing on with the questions. Next one is by Mr. Hamidur Rahman. Sir, why is the time horizon only 2.5 years? I mean, the project in construction industry would usually take more than 2 years. Would you address this? Hamid, I have already answered this, but nevertheless, I would answer this again for you and for the benefit of all our attendees. Basically, the project is considered an approved project once the maps or development plans are approved. What is there to motivate a builder and developer to actually go into construction? because the government really want the construction activity to kick in, remember, so that jobs can be created, so that the ancillary industries would get the demand and their industries would start rolling in, so that the plant and machinery might be imported and build the capacity, national capacity of the construction sector. So what would there be to motivate them? This is there to motivate them by giving them 2.5 years to complete the construction project. Now, if I'm a builder and developer and I know I'm starting a project and I need to complete that within 2.5 years, I would go into action quickly. And let me tell you, not all projects take 2.5 years. Yes, many mega projects where you are building entire cities, etc., might take that much time. But what is required here for builders? The completion of the gray structure, and for developer, completion of the main roads up to a certain standards, the basic layout thing that is being done, etc., and booking of 50% plots and getting payments of 40% amount thereof. One should be able to do that in 2.5 years. And this is basically done to keep a check on builders and developers to actually carry out the construction activity, rather than just register their project and sit back and enjoy all the benefits and amnesty. Hope that answers your question. And Saduddin Jumani mentioned WTI traded in negative yesterday, just for your information. Yes, Saduddin Saab, I'll be releasing a short video clip on that too. But I've been getting a lot of questions and I think we have some time. So let me quickly tell you, there is a lot of misconception about WTI. WTI is the West Texas basket. Basically, these require physical settlement. And this happened in the futures market, which were being settled. So what happened was, these futures contracts that were being settled, the people who bought these contracts either didn't plan to take the physical custody, they just planned to roll them over. But because of the current scenario, not many people are willing to take a physical capacity rollover, or they simply did not envision the, as most of us, circumstances, and did, or either were new players and did not adequately plan, or are not able to get adequate storage units. So now what happens? Nobody is willing to take the physical delivery of WTI. Okay, so this actually crashed and traded in negative, that you actually have to pay people to get it off your hand. It is a common phenomena in Europe, etc., that when many of the stores, etc., are clearing out, they offer crash sales, and if that doesn't work, at times they pay people to take that stuff, because the storage is so expensive there. So the same concept somewhat came in here. On the other hand, if you look at the other oil contracts, the normal one, even the future contracts that are settled in cash, they have not crashed. They are trading between $18 to $26. And by the way, Pakistan does not deal in WTI basket. We mostly buy our oil from the Gulf states, etc. And we haven't been trading much, to my knowledge, in the WTI physical delivery futures. So unfortunately, it's not gonna benefit us. Just for information, because this was so relevant and so happening a topic, I just gave a quick update to all our attendees. I hope that gives you a fair idea of what actually happened with the petrol markets. Next one, want amnesty schemes encourage money washing? Would the scale of balance of benefits from this window of opportunity outweigh the efforts the PM was making a priority of? A very, very good question, and one that I think we should hold on to Munib Afan Shafi Saab till I cover the amnesty, which I'm about to do in the next session. So let me see if we have another relevant question, then I'll go back and finish off the session and take the Q&A. Can we say that the impact of this is dependent on the investors or developers? Ahmed Wakri, I've already answered this question. Rabia Shams asked, my question is regarding the overall income tax implications in service-based industry operated in Pakistan, and it's not related to the topic discussed in this webinar. Can I contact you after the webinar for discussion in this regard? Sure, Rabia, you can. I always share my contact details at the end of the webinar. The best way to reach me is through LinkedIn to coordinate a time, even if you want to speak, or otherwise send in your query. I'll also be sharing other details, but the really fast way is LinkedIn. That's what I'll recommend. And you are all welcome. It doesn't mean if the session ends, I'm never going to be answering you. You would still be able to contact me, and it would be my pleasure to guide you all. Sadruddin Jumani Saab is saying, in my view, fixed rates in square feet will be charged by builders and developers to buyers. They will stay tax-free as they will gross up the price to include taxes. Well, we know the business practices that happens. The cost is normally passed on, but even the benefit otherwise of a fixed rate tax, it removes the ambiguity, and it also removes the question of audit. It removes, excuse me, it removes the fear factor that normally the construction industry have. So that would actually encourage builders and developers to take part in the construction sector. Rizwan Hassan Khwaja asked, correct me if I'm wrong, so if a builder constructs a 2-floor building on a 120 square yard feet, the total income tax liability would be this much without respect to the amount of profit he or she makes. So the crux of Rizwan's question is whether it would be a fixed rate of income tax without any regard to the profit. The answer is yes. Rizwan Hassan is saying I'm not in construction. Okay, I think we have taken sufficient questions. We'll come back to the other questions. We know there's a lot of interest, so you'll be able to ask me the question in the next Q&A stage. I think we have about 35-40 minutes left. So let's finish off the amnesty, and we'll try to even finish off the other section if needed, and then go into the Q&A session. So one of the major incentive that has been a demand of the construction industry as well as the property dealing industry as well has been the amnesty or exemption from Section 111. Let's find out what does this amnesty entails. So the provisions of Section 111 shall not apply to capital investment made in a new project under under clause A of subsection 1 in the form of money or land, subject to the following condition. If the investment is made by a builder or developer being an individual. Now remember, a builder and developer can be individual, AOP, or company, and all these scenarios are covered. So first things first, if the builder or developer is an individual and they make the investment in the form of money, such a builder or developer would be required to open a new bank account and deposit such amount in that account on or before 31st day of December 2020. However, if they make the investment in the form of land, such builder and developer shall have the ownership title of the land at the time of the commencement of the ordinance, that is 17 April 2020, and the money or land invested shall be wholly utilized in the project duly registered and commenced by 31st December 2020. So if they do this, then any money or land they are investing in the project would be exempted from the Section 111 of the income tax ordinance. If the investment is made by a person in a project by way of a company or AOP, then the first requirement would be that such company or AOP should have been in existence as a single object company, builder or developer company, or AOP, registered under the relevant legislation, be it the Companies Act 2017 or the Partnership Act 1932, after the date of announcement of the Tax Laws Amendment Ordinance 2020 and on or before the 31st day of 2020. So such company or AOP should be a single object company that should have been in existence or should be in existence on or before 31st day of 2020. So the window you have to incorporate this company or AOP that should be a single object company is after the date of commencement 17 April 2020 till 31st December 2020. The second requirement is that the person shall be a member or shareholder himself of the AOP or the company, as the case may be, And if the capital investment is made in the form of money, logically speaking, same as in the case of individual, in the case of AOP or company, such money shall be invested through a cross banking instrument but deposited in the bank account of the AOP or company on or before 31st December 2020. And if the investment is made in the form of land, such land should be transferred to that AOP or company on or before 31st December 2020. And obviously, if you are transferring, if a person is transferring the land, they shall have the ownership title of the land, and that ownership title should be with them at the time of the commencement of the ordinance. So the money or land invested shall also be wholly utilized in the project. So they can't do that, put some money in, then later on take this out and say, oh, we have an amnesty. No, the money that you are investing has the amnesty, and that money should be wholly utilized in the project. Same should be the case with the land. So the project that these money would be invested in would also need the completion certificate. Remember, these projects would need to be completed by 30th September 2022. So that would be giving a life of a time period of 2.5 or maximum 3 years in case of existing projects. Project need to be completed 30th September to 2022, which is also the relevant date uh, applicable in the case of the certifications below. For builders, the maps would need to be approved. The maps would need to be certified. Uh, the map approving or authority or NISPAC shall certify the completion of gray structure as per the approved map by 30th September 2022. For developers, the map approving authority or NESPAC shall certify completion of the landscaping and at least 50% of the roads up to subgrade level, the two requirements for the developers. The other two would need to be certified by an ICAP QCR satisfactory rated firm duly notified by FPR. So not all those firms can do, only those firms that satisfy this requirement and are notified by FPR would then certify that at least 50% booking of the plots and 40% of the sales proceeds have been received. This certification would be required for the relevant projects to avail the amnesty. The amnesty does not end with the builders and developers. Obviously, if there are no purchasers, no buyers, there would be no amnesties. So the purchasers are also given relief. They are also incentivized. We have also mentioned about the tax reliefs for the buyers before. We have spoken about the capital gains tax exemption. Now we are talking about exemption from section 111, the practical amnesty from the fearful unexplained income or assets. The provisions of section 111 shall also not apply to the first purchaser of a building or a unit of building purchased from builder. A builder is the registered builder with FPR in this case, in respect of the purchase price of the building or the unit of building. So the amount they have paid to buy the building or unit of building exempt from section 111 of income tax ordinance, but subject to the conditions. Number one, the payment should be made through a cross banking instrument to the builder during the period starting from the date of registration of project of builder with the board. So it can be any date between 17 April 2020 to 31st December 2020 and ending on 30th day of September 2020. So between these dates, the payment can be made. So payment can be made from 17th April 2020. If the project is registered on that date, I would doubt that. Normally it would take some days, some time period. So whenever the project is registered from that date until the date of completion of the project as envisioned in the ordinance, which is 30th September 2020, a purchaser can buy the building or the unit, and the amount that they are paying would be through a cross banking instrument and that full amount would entail amnesty from section 111. And the full or balance amount of payment is made through a banking instrument during a period starting from the date of registration of the project with the board under this section and ending on 30th September 2022 in case of purchase is from an existing incomplete project. So if you made the purchase from a new project, then definitely that would be the date of registration till 30th September 2022. What if you made purchase from an existing project that started before the ordinance was promulgated? Yes, you would still be able to avail this, but the payment, the purchase, the full or balance amount of the payment should be through a cross banking instrument, and that full or balance payment should be during the period starting from the date of registration of the project with the board under this section and ending on 30th September 2022. This is very, very important. Okay, so we have spoken about the purchaser of building or unit. What about the purchasers of plot? Will they be able to avail the amnesty too? A big question, especially for the developers and the property dealers. Well, the good news is, with some conditions, yes, they can. The purchaser of a plot who intends to construct a building thereon would be able to avail the amnesty if the purchase is made on or before 31st of December 2020 this year, so then they can start the construction within the due time period. The full payment is made on or before 31st of December 2022 through a cross banking instrument. These are good requirements going towards the documentation, encouraging the documentation. Construction on such projects should be commenced on or before 31st December 2020, and such construction, as is the requirement for builders and developers for completion of their project, should be completed on or before 30th September 2022. And this person should register himself with the board on the online IRIS web portal. Now, so far, so good. But some of you would be thinking and asking the question, and Nizam, pay attention because I'm answering this question and you should be able to skip this question now during the Q&A break. What about the people involved in the crime proceed? What about the money laundering and terror financing and the FATF implications? Well, the law has made exclusions. Any holder of public office, as defined in the Voluntary Declaration of Domestic Assets Act 2018, or his Benamidars, as defined in the Benami Transaction Prohibition Act 2017, or his spouse or dependents, would not be able to avail this amnesty. So holders of public office are defined in detail in the Voluntary Declaration of Domestic Assets Act 2018, and this has been shared in the handouts with you, and this is pretty detailed. So I'm just quickly showing you. Due to time limitation, I won't be going through it. You can see government official head of states, PM, Senate members, MPAs, MNAs, CMs, public office holders, bureaucrats, judiciary, etc. They are even local government officials. They are all excluded from the ambit of this. Secondly, a public listed company would not be able to avail the amnesty. So a builder and developer can be a private limited company, not a public company. If the public funds are involved, you can't avail this amnesty. A real estate investment trust or a company whose income is exempt under any other provision of the ordinance would not be able to avail this amnesty. And any proceeds derived from the commission of a criminal offense, including the crimes of money laundering, extortion, or terror financing, would not be able to avail this amnesty. Flat, straight off, addressing the concerns of FATF2. However, an important exclusion: any offenses under this ordinance, the tax ordinance, are excluded. Mean if somebody did not do money laundering, extortion, or terror finances, but otherwise didn't declare, did misdeclaration or did not probably pay their entire tax liability, they can avail that amnesty. So it's a considered pro and con. While money laundering, extortion, tariff financing are excluded, any tax misdeed, which is the right of the national government, is being forgiven in the hopes of reviving the economy by way of the construction sector. This brings us to the miscellaneous requirements and conditions, and we are nearing the end of the session. So let's just finish this, and I'll take your question and answers in one go at the end. So some other miscellaneous requirements and conditions are that naturally, when you are giving so many incentives, you are giving fixed tax rates, you are giving amnesty, you are giving industry status, and the benefits that apply, especially for the import of plant and machinery, and you are also given relief in terms of capital gain tax, you are giving relief to buyers, first time buyers, to builders, developers, etc., then naturally no tax credit will be allowed. However, any tax under section 236k, you do remember what is 236k, don't you? 236k deals with the advance tax on purchase of property. Any that tax which is paid, the tax credit for that would be allowed. Other than that, no tax credit would be allowed, and no refund adjustment for previous years against the tax liability under this ordinance would be available. Annual tax liability would be computed by using the formula shown on your screen. Tax liability as per the rates mentioned in Rule 10, uh, divided by the estimated project life in years. The estimated project life for tax years will not exceed 2.5 years for new projects. For existing projects, from tax year 2020 through to tax year 2022, the taxpayer would need to reduce by the percentage of completion up to the last day of the accounting period pertaining to tax year 2019 as declared in registration form. This is very logical. Any part of the project that was completed till the last tax year 2019 would need to be taken out, because that would not fall within the scope of this ordinance. And the tax liability of tax year 2020 would need to be paid along with the tax return for this year. The tax computed above shall be paid in advance in 4 equal installments in on quarterly basis in the manner laid out in section 147 of the Income Tax Ordinance 2001. The builders and developers and first time buyers, as we have discussed in this presentation and today's session, would be able to get their project registered under this scheme voluntarily. So they can choose to avail this scheme. They can choose to be taxed under the this new scheme, and under the section 100D that would be inserted voluntarily. They can also choose not to do that and be taxed under the existing regime. If they do choose, however, to register under this scheme, it can't be reversed. So you have to think the benefits. If you think it's beneficial, amnesty, fixed tax, everything, all the incentives, I would really be looking for people who think it's not beneficial. Anyway, if somebody does think it's beneficial and get registered, once registered, it can't be reversed. The builders and developers will register each project separately by submitting the online form that FBR would release on IRIS by providing the details of the project. In case of undertaking of both the development and construction project on the same plot, two separate forms will be submitted for both development and building. The registration can be done till 31st of December 2020, and new and existing projects should be completed by 30th of September 2022. Now, we have tried to cover all the important points, but as you can understand, there are so many questions, there are so many areas, there would still be some things, some minute points that might be left out. That's why we have given you the complete tax laws amendment ordinance that you can refer to and go through in your free time. We are also gifting you a copy of this presentation, but please be professional and ethical, and do give credit to today's session, to ACCA, to FPR, to MLCC when you refer to this, and make use of this. And any questions that you have, you'll be able to ask me not just now, but even after the session. You can contact me on my details provided to you. And the best way to contact me would be on my LinkedIn profile that is available on screens. You can just click on this. It's in the profile, in the presentation you have the profile, and just send me a message. Connect with me on LinkedIn and send me a message, and I will get back to you. If you do decide to send me a message on WhatsApp, please introduce yourself. And remember, I get a lot of WhatsApp and email, so it might take a bit of time to get back to you. The best way to get a quick, comparatively quicker responses on LinkedIn. But the best thing is I do respond. Even if it takes time, I respond to everyone. Another fantastic endeavor that we are doing is you are getting this interactive session, you are getting to ask the question and everything. But even if you want to see the recording, otherwise this will be available after a quarter on ACCA's GoToWebinar, but it would be available within a few days on my YouTube channel too. You can access that. And uh, another good thing, we envisioned a program that we referred turned the corona or COVID-19 lockdown into a blessing by professional development. We delivered several CPDs in last few days live for ACCA. We also started putting up these sessions free of cost for everyone on the YouTube channel, as well as many other sessions and trainings, and many other professional development clips on the YouTube channel. And in the last few days alone, over 5,000 professionals have availed this in this month. Over last few days, they have benefited from this program by either attending the CPDs online or going through the videos on the YouTube channel. And now we have decided to expand the program further by launching a new video on the YouTube every single day. So every single day, you'll be getting a new professional video on the YouTube. And taking in your feedback, we have reduced the duration. So for tomorrow and day after tomorrow, they are still longer sessions. But from Thursday onwards, the sessions would be anywhere between a few minutes to a maximum of 30 minutes. They would not go more than 30 minutes. They would become sessions in part if the topic is lengthier, but every video uploaded would be a maximum of 30 minutes to benefit for the benefit of viewers, so they can see this at their comfort. And with that smaller time period, hopefully they would have better retention and engagement. So this is the YouTube channel link too. You will have that. You can click this and open the YouTube channel. Otherwise, you can simply go on YouTube and search it by my name, Umar Zahir Mir, and you'll have the YouTube available to you. So with this, I think this is now time to go to the Q&A. Are you ready, Nizam? While Nizam is coming, let me quickly show you the YouTube channel.
Sure.
So we have Nizam, but just give me 30 seconds, Nizam. So this is the YouTube channel. The way you can search it is already shown in this video clip here. You'll just type in my name, Umar Zahir Mir, and it would appear. And you'll have all these ACCA CPD session, as well as a new professional development video every single day. So make use of this this time period, this lockdown, and invest in yourself. Over to you, Nizam. let's go through with the question. What you need to do now, Nizam, is quickly ask me the question. I might at the end ask you to unmute a guy or two, but otherwise we'll try to quickly go through as many questions as possible. Any question relating to what we have already covered, you can skip that on your own, or you can just quickly read the question and I'll skip it for you. So let's start, my friend.
Would you like to tell me the last question when I was born that you asked? Or should I just start by?
Why don't you ask the question that Taha Askari asked? It's a couple of questions after Rabia Shams. You'll be looking at 320-ish.
320. Okay, so
Around
Rabia
that time.
Shams's question.
Rabia Shams one I already answered. Just scroll down a little bit.
Okay, we have
Let me answer one
WT
question
Shabazz
while you
Mahmood.
find that. Hang on. I promised Munib Afan Shafi to answer his question. He said, want amnesty scheme be encouraging money washing? I hope, Munib, your question is now answered. I covered in detail the exemptions. Please carry on, Nizam. Taha Askari's question. 331.
Okay, so no question at 331 at my end.
Okay, let me ask this question and you can then
334.
continue from the next one. Taha
Thank
Askari
you.
asked, you're welcome. Taha Askari asked that the present incentives being provided seems to be a short-term measure to scale economic growth in the present environment, as you have already discussed. Thanks, Taha. I went through a leading economist's point of views on Pakistan having the lowest productive utilization of land in South Asia, let alone the world. A lot of it is happening due to ineffective regulation and influx of black money. What mechanism do you think should be employed by the authorities to spur economic development for long term in the construction industry? A very good question, Taha, and it would require a detailed session. I'll try to do that if you especially put in me a reminder on LinkedIn, but just a few pointers. The first stage is the economic revival. Checks and balances have been introduced, exclusions have been introduced. The next stage would be the documentation of the economy along with structural reforms of the legislation, especially tax laws, so people can gain the confidence, and then actual delivery so people can see that their tax money is being spent. So avoidance of harassment and winning over people's trust. Once that is done, then there can be an effective documentation of the economy and implementation of the AML regimes most effectively. But let me tell you, Pakistan has done fantastic work. I can tell you this because I've been working as advisor and trainer with several banks, and the AML laws implementation has been fantastic. We have even drafted the AML laws for some banks, and the kind of efforts that State Bank has put in, let me tell you, they are one of the best in the region. So hopefully we'll continue efforts in this regard and see the results in the coming time period. Taha Askari also asked at 333, is there no possibility of applying a single unit of tax throughout the cycle of construction, which includes land, plotting, completion of building, and capital gain from the first sale? Is there no internal precedence of it? Taha, the fixed rate has now been introduced and we have discussed. I hope that answers your question. If you are asking something else, please elaborate or send me a message on the LinkedIn. Over to you, 334.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So Shabazz Makhdoom, exemption from capital gain is available to everyone rather than only builders and developers.
Shabazz, we have covered that in detail. If the requirements are met by the first-time purchaser, by the seller, that the property they purchased was the one which they are about to sell, and it was being used for their own personal accommodation, and all the other conditions, including the benefit not being availed previously, was being met, then yes, they will be able to avail the CGT exemption. Shoaib Khan, thank you. Are welcome. Over to you.
Another question by Shabazz Makhdoom, only withholding of tax on dividends of construction companies is made. Taxpayers will have to pay tax on dividends themselves. Am I right?
Very good question, Shabazz. Reread this slide that I provided you. In fact, you'll have to go through the legislation. The dividends that are being paid, exemption has been made there. So these dividends will be received tax exempt. So the way dividends are taxed, the withholding tax is deducted. The same concept, like you receive salary income, the tax is already deducted. If the government says, okay, it's exempted, you don't have to withhold the salary tax, it doesn't mean you have to pay the tax yourself. I hope that answers the question. Next one. So good news for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Ahmed Bakri. My question is relating to the WHIT for construction contractors. I understand that this will remain same for the construction contractors and they will deduct WHIT as they are deducting now.
Not really, Ahmed. I've discussed this in detail as per the changes made in section 150 or 153. The video of this will be available within this week. In fact, next few days on the YouTube channel. Please go there, subscribe to it or watch it for the answer. But no, it won't be the same. Changes have been introduced in section 150 and 153, and it's not WHIT, my friend, it's WHT, the abbreviation for withholding tax. Over to you, Nizam.
Thank you. Ashik Ali Rana. Can you also explain what is the benefit of this ordinance of landowner for purchase and constructed the house or plaza or housing society from builder and developer? This scheme only covered only builders or developers. Uh, and he also goes on, or maybe you should answer this first.
Could you please unmute Ashik Ali Rana Saab? Ashik Ali Rana Saab is the Vice President of Lahore Tax Bar Association. As I mentioned in the session, he is one of our partners. Lahore Tax Bar is a partner institution of ACCA, and we work very closely. We have a lot of MOUs, and Ashik Saab is a very learned professional and also esteemed official of the Lahore Tax Bar Association, but on a personal level, a very dear friend. Could you please unmute Ashik Saab so he can ask his question himself?
So, Ashik Saab, I'll ask you to unmute yourself. You are unmuted at my end. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum. How are you, Umar bhai?
Wa alaikum assalam, Ashik bhai. Good to have you here. Welcome. How are you? How's the
I am
session
very
going so
happy.
far?
I am very happy to see you. And this session is very knowledgeable and sharing your valuable knowledge for us. I really appreciate you. I'm proud of you. And I can also
Thank you, brother.
request to make this session another for the members of Lahore Tax Bar Association once again, because this is a new
Sure, it will be
ordinance. Thank you very much. Thank you. So kind of you. Welcome. Please carry on. Thank you very
Ashik
much.
bhai, Ashik bhai, I'll just discuss the question you have asked. Thanks for your kind words and compliments. Ashik Saab is a very positive person, and as you have seen right now, not only he appreciated the effort, but he immediately thought of benefiting the members and asked to do the session for Lahore Tax Bar again, which Ashik Saab, on your request, will be doing. So the credit would go to you. You asked
Thank you.
that kindly. You're welcome. You asked that kindly also explain what is the benefit of this ordinance of landowner for purchase and construction of the house or plaza or housing society for from builder and developer. This scheme only covered builder or developer. Ashik bhai, anybody who would be building or developing when they'll register themselves with the FBR would become builder and developer, because the ordinance defines the builder and developer not in the typical sense, but as someone who would register their project with the FBR on IRIS. So for example, you or me went and brought some land, and we decided after buying the land, we decided that we are gonna build a property on it. So what we would need to do is we'll register ourselves on IRIS and we would become a builder. If we just buy some agriculture or undeveloped land and we decide that we'll develop and sell it as a housing society, then we'll need to register ourselves on FBR's website, IRIS, and we'll become developer. So it's not limited in the traditional sense to traditional builders and developers, but it has now opened up the avenue to anyone willing to work in the construction industry. They can become builder and developer by just enrolling themselves on FBR, and there's no limit. They might be building just one house, just one unit. They can do that. There's no size limit. So hope that answers your question, sir.
Should I move on, sir?
Let's do that.
Okay, so I think this one is for you, Faizan Ahmed. Link is not selecting. Then Mohammed Ijaz. Sir, relief is only available on import of plant and machinery. What about material like tiles, electric items, etc.?
We have discussed that there would be no withholding tax deducted on any materials bearing cement and steel. It's covered in the session. For more detailed discussion, please do view the recording of this session. I have already shared the link of the YouTube channel with you. I've also shown it to you. It would be available within a few days, within this week. So please visit that. Look at the recording. You'll get your detailed answer. Otherwise, go through this presentation meanwhile. Next one.
All right. So Hamidur Rahman. What can we expect from upcoming relief package for SMEs sector? What would you kindly give your input?
It's a very good question and one that would require some detailed answer, Hamid Sab. Hamid Sab, basically, the upcoming relief package for SME sector is still to be seen that what transpires. A lot of people were asking me to comment on this relief package for construction industry, but I was holding myself back. Reason being that as professionals, we should wait for the formal document to be released because many things actually get changed during the process of approval by the cabinet, or if it's presented to the parliament during the debates there or through the promulgation. So once the final thing is available, only then one would be able to comment on this. So I would suggest let's hold and see what the final package is before we actually comment. I hope that answers your question. Now, Nizam, could you continue reading the comments, as I think we have answered most of the question. So you can start by reading Ashik Bhai's comment, that is at 355.
All right, I'll be apologizing, but I wasn't around and it's not coming here at my end. So
Okay, that's
can
fine.
I request?
I'll just read
Thank
the
you.
comment myself, and then you can connect from where you were available. So Ashik Bhai said, "Hello, how are you?" And we already discussed that. I'm very well, my friend, and I hope you are well too. Thank you for such a fruitful knowledge sharing session with us and sparing your valuable time. I'm proud of you. You are most welcome. We are glad that a knowledgeable person like you also found this valuable, and thanks for your kind feedback. We look forward to strengthening our ties with Lahore TaxPar, and we will be doing this session for Lahore TaxPar too. Next up is Kumal Ali 417. Is that appearing to you, Nizam?
Yes, it is. Would you like me to speak it out?
Sure, you are the team. Continue, please.
Thank you. Sir, your biggest fan, but I'm suggesting to organize the sessions in evening timings as you were doing earlier. I could not concentrate due to office work in this time. So, Komal, I have just a small input for you. We are organizing all these webinars on a schedule that is based regionally. So we had a session that was postponed due to lack of time. It was based on International Chamber of Commerce running from Sri Lanka. So it was a last moment call, but or it would have been on air, but due to clash of time, we couldn't put it up. So back-to-back webinars, and we have to really push in all these sessions. Rest is all
That's
assured.
okay,
We
Nizam.
tried our best.
Let me address that. Thank you. Kumail, first of all, thank you for such a kind feedback. Well, biggest fan, then I would be your biggest fan and would look forward to meeting you. As Nizam has told you, we normally try to organize these in the evening time, but we already had some session planned in these few days, and we wanted to do it very quickly for the benefits of our members and other attendees and our partner institutions. So the ordinance released only yesterday, and we wanted to do it today, and we did it. And I actually worked overnight to finalize the presentation for you guys. But the problem was the sessions were already scheduled for today. So we worked with the team, and they worked very hard to organize the back-to-back session, and the only slot that we had was 2:30 to 4:30. So we said, instead of delaying, let's do it at this time. However, to compensate you, we will be making available the recording of this session online. It would be available within this week, in the next few days, on the YouTube channel. So don't worry, my friend, you'll be able to see the recording. And as usual, if you have any questions, you can contact me on LinkedIn. I hope that answers your question. Next one, over to you, Nizam.
Thank you. So Hamidur Rahman, so what can we expect from the upcoming relief
That's already
package
been
for the
answered.
SME sector? Nabil Ibrahim, thank you, Umar Bhai, for your efforts and time.
You are most welcome,
Then,
Nabil. We are glad you attended. After you read the comment, give me a few seconds to respond to them too, as a courtesy.
thank you. Will be followed like that. Mohammad Faisal, very informative session. Thanks, Mr. Umar Zahir and ACCA. Thank you
You
very
are most
much.
welcome, Faisal Saab. We are glad that it added value, and that's our aim.
Okay, so Ashik Ali Rana, when I registered the company after my work done, then what will I do? Can it will be wind up or dissolve?
So Ashik Bhai, if you register a company for a project as a builder and developer, after that is completed, you can always wind up. That is covered within the scope of the Companies Act 2017. However, you don't even need to register one. You can even do the project as an individual on your own NTN, or you can do it as a AOP in partnership with someone. But to answer your question, if you decide to do that as a company, after completion of the project, you can wind that up, and that is covered within the scope of the Companies Act 2017. Hope that answers your question. Over to you, Nizam.
Thank you, sir. Zishan Majid. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm missing a comment. Hamidur Rahman, thank you for the input, sir. Really helpful. God bless you.
You are most welcome. God bless you too, my friend.
Zishan Majid, sir, great session. It was really helpful.
You are most welcome, Zishan. We are glad it added value.
Kasser Majid, unable to download notes, so I just shared all the handout links. Then Kasser Majid, further text messaging should be started to generate alerts regarding the start of the webinar. Okay,
It's a
we'll
good
take that into
suggestion,
account.
but all of us do have our cell phones handy, and our emails are normally on our cell phone, and we are getting updates about them. So if we are getting so many emails that we can't locate this email, then the question would be, perhaps we might be getting so many SMS that we won't be able to locate the SMS too. Something to think about, but still a good suggestion. And Nizam, please discuss that with member affairs.
I will, sir. I will. Ashik Ali Rana, thanks for compliments and honor. Best of luck in future.
You are most welcome, Ashik Saab. Thank you very much. Best wishes to you too, and we'll soon be doing the session as you have personally requested for our esteemed partners of Lahore Tax Bar Association, inshallah.
Command Ali, sure sir, it will be a pleasure to meet you. Thank you so much. I will go through the recordings.
You are most welcome. The pleasure would be mine, Kumail.
Then last, Saqib Latif, a wonderful insight, great session.
Thank you very much, Saqib Saab. And I think let's call it a day now. Thank you everyone for attending the session today. We hope you learned from today's session and it added value. Thank you for sparing the time. Thank you for all your great feedback. Please do connect on social media. Let your suggestion come in. Let us know what kind of topics you would like to have sessions in future too. And do subscribe to the YouTube channel to avail the free recordings of this session for your benefit too. And most importantly, stay safe, follow all the precautions, do the best you can, and use this time wisely to invest in your professional development so that when you come out of the lockdown and even during, you are a different person able to cope with the challenges. With that, I would like to thank my entire team at ACCA, Nizam, Arun, everyone who made today's session possible, Sajid, who was also very excited for today's session, our partners who really spurred us up for this session, Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry, especially Kashif Anwar Saab there, Lahore Tax Bar Association, especially Ashik Ali Rana Saab there, our members, our Tax Advisory Committee, our MNP, my own team at MLCC Millennium Law and Corporate Company who really helped with this presentation and all the material and really put up with me taking all the time out from the firm's work for the greater good. So I think that's it. Once again, thank you very much for your time. Have a good day and take care of yourself till we see you the next time. Allah Hafiz.